you want to know something I love? I often talk about things I dislike, but here we go. Something I love. I paraphrased it, work humor. I love work humor. Now, some of you may hate work humor if you work with a bunch of stuck-up assholes. Luckily, I don't. The ironic thing to me is, and this is just through my experiences in working, and I've had many jobs. I'm 22, I've worked since I was 15. Full-time jobs, sometimes 2 of them. So I've had my fair share of work experience up to this point. When you become comfortable with coworkers, you're able to talk about your issues a little bit. You can't cross those, you can't cross certain lines, like politics or religion in some instances. But just I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, make it clear. So this morning I was in the restroom. We got like a little break room with a little restroom off on the side. I was actually in the break room. I said that wrong in the beginning. I was in the break room. Coworker walks in. I go, dude, you about to take a shit? And he's like, nope. I had a cliffhanger in my nose and I picked it. Now my nose is bleeding. That's awesome. See that comfort zone there? That's great. That's absolutely amazing. Why can't we extend that out to the public, out to the realm of society? I think that would be great as well. Oh, why can't we be comfortable with one another? We can be comfortable with our friends and coworkers, and if you're drunk, I guess you can be comfortable with everybody. You know, if you hang around someone for a couple of hours and they're not a complete douchebag, I guess you start to open up to them a little bit. So why is it we have this wall of what I call boring? The wall of boring and dull. It's not even like information sharing, because all the information that you send and receive on a general basis with anybody in the public is probably information you already know. I give you an example, and I was glad that this happened today. So I was sitting at a Mexican restaurant, talking to someone, and I cussed quite a bit. You know, no surprise to people watching this video. And towards the end of my meal, a gentleman comes over my right shoulder, and he says, "Young man," and I looked up and recognized him, and he said, "You have a foul mouth." And I said, "Thank you," and he walked off. But, and now that I think about it, the next time that happens, I've never had that happen to me before, so the next time that happens, I think I'm going to say something along these lines. Sir, next time you plan on interrupting me, please enlighten me with some information I don't already know. Because if you're going to tell me something like, "You have a foul mouth," you just wasted my time. You completely just destroyed whatever it was I was into at that moment. I know I have a foul mouth. Fuck! It doesn't bother me. And what does a foul mouth really matter? I mean, really. I mean, they're just words. They're letters organized into words so that we can understand a language. Just like cunt, or bitch, or car, or truck, or asshole, or dick, or whatever else. So it's just this social barrier that not only that things have to be boring and dull and all the information that we transfer happens to be information that we already know, like the fucking weather. It also has to be very standoffish. And it would be okay if it was critical. That was a pretty critical comment, which is fine with me. But I wished it was something I didn't know. Like if he would have walked up to me and maybe made some comments, because he obviously heard me, right? I wish he would have made some comments based on what I was talking about. Because that would have been awesome. Hey, I overheard your conversation, and you said this and this. Well, I think this and this. And that would have been great. That would have been a highlight of my day. Although it still was a highlight of my day. I guess because most strangers don't talk to one another. You know, it's kind of like in a traffic jam, everybody sits there with their windows rolled up. That's kind of how society is when you walk into a restaurant. You talk to the people that you have to. See, I often try to listen in on other conversations. If there's voices within my proximity, I attempt to tune in. Because I'm hoping that they say something that triggers something in me that just wants to go over there and say something, positive or negative, critical or not. Because that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be interesting if we could just all open up, have this work comfort zone within us? That would be great. Instead, everybody shuts down and they want to say, "You don't know me. You don't understand me." You're right. But what does that really matter? I can understand situations. I can understand concepts. I can understand variables. And maybe I won't always recognize the point of view. Most of the time I won't. But if you're willing to let me understand, I'm sure I'm capable of doing so. And I'm sure there's many other people that probably agree with me in that aspect. But instead of just getting along, instead of just being open, we would rather be assholes and dicks and stand off from each other. Which doesn't seem very proactive to me, really. I mean, I hate to deal with people, and I'll be the first one to admit it. I love drive-thrus, mainly because I get to sit in my air conditioning with my luxurious radio playing, and I have very little contact with others. But when I do have to go inside, like maybe to a gas station or something, I try to make it a lighter atmosphere than what it was before I walked in the door, because I think that's important. I think it's important when I have, maybe it's not important, but it's certainly fulfilling to me when I have customers that are cool enough or open enough to joke around or tell me something that I find pretty awesome. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of times when I'm scared to approach customers with certain things that I would just like to ask them. Like, I have a coworker that only has one arm. She's an amazingly beautiful woman. She only has one arm though. I've worked with this girl for about 6 months. I have yet to ask her why she only has one arm. I'm interested to know the story. But I guess this all goes back to people being offended about all kinds of just ridiculous nonsense. So, that's my take on work humor, and I kind of wish that other people would be willing to expand their comfort zones. Because you learn something from talking to other people. You really do. You really start to learn that you just don't know shit. And that other people's perspectives may turn into your perspectives. Unfortunately, most people aren't willing to listen. I guess a more correct statement would be, most people are incapable of listening because they simply don't know how to listen or how to react.